Okay, so before I get into this one, I just want to say that I honestly loved watching the fandom, but my god, I never realised the challenge I was taking on by deciding to make a video about it. And I'm not saying that in terms of editing, etc., more of it just the sheer amount of information there was to unpack from this documentary. The fandom has so much history in such a short period of time that I can totally get how Ash Coyote had challenges making different meetings with people. Like seriously, if I were to make a reaction video detailing everything that it goes over, this video would be a heck of a lot longer than I want it to be. So basically, this is a huge thank you to the fandom's creator Ash Coyote, and of course her partner and co-producer Chip Fox. Oh, and before I forget, if you haven't seen this film already, this might be a good opportunity to go and watch that before coming and watching this video, because there might be a few spoilers here and there. If that doesn't bother you, then anyway, welcome to today's video. I'm your golden good boy Chorus Creative, and this is my reaction to the release of The Fandom. First off, I want to mention the production quality. It's just so professional in the way it's filmed, I know it could put a few good shows to shame. Especially right at the beginning where it uses animations of hieroglyphs to explain how humans have this intimate relation to animals, and how they're such a part of our culture through our use of them in educating kids ideals like morals, or right from wrong in cartoons and anthropomorphic characters. In the intro, it specifically mentions the Egyptian gods, for example, and how people would use animals as a way to feel closer to their deities. It struck me that in writing this documentary, the depth and detail of the research surrounding this amazing fandom has been looked at from literally every single angle imaginable, and I love that because it shows how much care and attention went into this 90-minute film. But anyway, moving forwards, I loved how the story shows the inception of the communities from room parties in hotels of sci-fi conventions through to the conception of the word furry in 1986 being as it was an evolution of the term funny animals. It's really fascinating seeing how the fandom progressed and evolved to a point where in 1990 at BayCon, it was noticed that anime fans and funny animals or furry creators were beginning to take over the sci-fi conventions they were attending, prompting Bob O'Reilly and Mark Molino to create Conference. I thought it was pretty funny as part of the origin story. I have so much respect for what these two have achieved. They took something they were passionate about and shared it with the world. I love that they had the courage to try something new and different, bringing together animators, artists, writers, musicians, puppeteers, and performers into what is now a global community. They couldn't have had a more difficult beginning, especially when things were starting out in 1977 and at a time when all of what they wanted to create was effectively kind of underground. Separately, with the fandom growing in local communities, it's awesome to see how the introduction of new technology helped expand the fandom's reach through publications like Albedo, which was a comic-style book which featured loads of different writers and cartoonists in a sort of anthology which was stocked in comic stores. Through the introduction of the internet giving birth to online bulletin boards and multi-user dungeons or MUDs, which were platforms for furries to roleplay and connect with each other. Eventually, these online groups would soon finally meet up with each other at conventions, so in effect, the internet had created a platform for people with like minds to find others and connect with over common ground, and generate new friendships in real life. At the time, Uncle Kage put it beautifully. It must have been science fiction or Star Trek stuff for that to be a reality, and I think I agree. Thinking about it, it's astonishing to see the progress that the fandom has made with each of these little innovations over time. More importantly, I feel it's the spotlight that this documentary puts on the community as a whole and the people in it, such as Bubbles, who is one of the only 2 female convention chairs in the fandom. Creators like Nonstop Pup, Nate or Luna, Don't Hug Cacti Suits, Sasha R. Jones, Lucky Coyote, and loads of others besides. It's a documentary that opens up what the fandom means to people and the impact that it's had on both them and what they've been able to have on it. It talks about the support that the fandom has had for people who have ever struggled with mental health, personal identity, sexual orientation, shyness, and others who have wanted a creative outlet but never felt really able to before. Its diversity is really well known, and the fandom takes the time to showcase the way it's flown the banner for the LGBTQ+ community. Speaking of personal identity, the fandom explores where personas originated from, and I was fascinated at how it brings up how they're your own way to express your own vision of what you would want to be or who you want to project yourself as a kind of a way to, quoting the film, come out of your own shell and be yourself. A note I took away from watching and re-watching the fandom was that each of the interviewees in the film make notes in some way or another of how strange the fandom is compared with others, but each of them notably embraces the strangeness, and all have such unique stories to tell of how they became involved and how the freedom to express themselves amongst such an open and positive environment helped them as people to find their own ambitions and try new things that would otherwise be considered totally outside of the norm. I totally agree with this in all honesty, to the extent that I wouldn't be doing this right now if it weren't for this fandom. Its openness and positive encouragement for such supportive groups of people has really given me a greater drive to explore my own creative ability. Through experiencing this documentary, I felt truly amazed at the celebration of creative imagination being put on display, and I felt pride as someone who enjoys the creative arts in many forms, music and animation being primary amongst those. I'm no great writer, nor am I any form of motivational speaker, but strangely this documentary, without ever saying a word on the matter, it feels like it's right there beside you, telling you just to look a little bit further out on the horizon, reach out for something that only you can discover. Or in my case, it was a sense of rekindling a passion for creativity, which was something I didn't even know I'd been losing over the last few years. I suppose another way to look at the furry fandom is that for those of you watching who aren't furries but moreover just looking into the topic for the first time, if you can see past the plethora of fuzzy-faced goofiness shining as brightly as it does, you'll simply find what's actually just a broad multitude of people who are all just trying to make something that they can be proud of, whether it can be a lasting group of like-minded friends or an alternate way to be yourself in a secure place. As of writing this video, the fandom has over 300,000 views since its premiere on YouTube on the 3rd of July. It's already had a small campaign start up requesting it get featured on Netflix, and I sincerely hope it does. As of the premiere, it hosted over 5,000 people, and was soon trending on Twitter at number 27 in the US. Not long after, Ash tweeted out saying that, on the 9th of July, the digital downloads were being updated with 8 different languages after additional voluntary work done by foreign fans. It's got to be safe to say that the release of the fandom has been a huge success, and I couldn't be happier that it's managed to reach such a wide audience so quickly. The time and effort spent over the last year or so, since the documentary was funded on the 22nd of May in 2019, has been used to create something that is totally landmarking. Not only as an informational piece, but also as a celebration of everything that the furry community has done and continues to do for so many people. Ash, I just want to say a huge thank you to you for making this. I learned so much by watching it, and as a relatively new fur myself, I'm overwhelmed to discover so much more than what I knew previously. You should feel so proud of yourself, and everyone involved. I honestly can't wait to see what happens in Season 2. Well, that's all I have to say, and that's all from me. It's over to you. I've been Chorus Creative, and I hope to see you soon.